Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and this week I've been living with the 2026 Kia K4 Hatchback GT Line Turbo. And this is a return to form as far as I'm concerned, because I'm sick of SUVs, and this feels like a proper little station wagon. It is a hatchback, but when you look at it from the side profile, it says station wagon a little more than it says GTI. Under the hood of this top trim level K4 is a 1.6 liter four-cylinder turbo making 190 horsepower, 195 pound-feet of torque, and it's mated to a proper 8-speed automatic gearbox. No CVT in this one, like the lower 2-liter non-turbo version. So this one gets a proper automatic with paddles. And this one's outfitted in sparkling yellow. Not everybody's cup of tea, but if you're somebody who likes a Phoenix yellow E46 M3, I don't think you have any grounds to complain about this one. It's definitely a striking design. Simple silhouette, but great accents. I really dig the lighting design. And Kia has really found their way in the American market. It was not very long ago that Kia was a very, very, very cheap brand. It was something you bought just because it was cheap. It had that 100,000 mile 10-year warranty, and it was something that somebody who needed a new car but didn't want to spend a lot of money could get into, but you didn't get any frills. But now Kia's giving you everything. This one comes in at $32,800 in its top trim, and that's because it has the technology package. But let me just show you. The technology package is going to give you a heated steering wheel. It's going to give you a 2-stage heating steering wheel, by the way. Heated seats, ventilated seats, and this Syntex sort of non-leather thing, but honestly these seats are kind of comfortable. You also get nice lumbar support. They're power adjustable, so no longer is a Kia just the bare bones thing that you can afford. It's actually something you might aspire to have. Oddball rear door handles. The back seats, nothing to really write home about. It's just a bench. However, we should appreciate the fact that there are actual vents back here. That is something that Honda is not doing, because when you get in the back of a Civic, you don't get these. No, you've got to rely on the ambient air. So it's really nice to see this back here. You also get 2 USB-C chargers for your rear passengers and ample legroom. Not a bad deal. In the center, you get a nice little armrest, also in this Syntex faux leather thing, and some cup holders. Not so bad, but here's the thing I like about this is it's a proper hatchback. It's kind of a slim rear glass, so rear visibility mildly limited, but great cameras in Kias. Back here, loads of storage space, and of course you can put down these rear seats. And let's see, take a peek back here. Don't we love a spare tire? It even says spare tire on it. It's not full size, but a spare nonetheless, because here's the deal. So many manufacturers are putting us through their own cost savings, their own weight savings, their own space savings, and that leaves us with no spare tire and the goo. And you know what? The goo sometimes works, but it doesn't always work. If you blow out a sidewall, if you get a really gnarly puncture, the goo's not doing you any good. If you shred a tire, goo is useless. And to have a proper spare, when you're out in the middle of nowhere, when you're really out there somewhere and you just don't want to wait 2, 3, sometimes 5 hours for a tow truck, doesn't matter if you've got AAA. Sometimes you got to wait a long time. It's a real bummer. And to have a spare tire means a lot. So I know I just spent a lot of time on that, but it's worth it to me to mention it. Under the hood, oh boy, and is this a heavy hood? Holy cow, that is made of asteroid. Okay, under here, that's your turbo GDI engine, so not the naturally aspirated 2-liter, but the faster turbo variant. And it scoots, but it doesn't have great off-the-line response. We are going to talk about that when we're driving, but here's the deal. The Kia does not try to be the GTI, and I think that's really important. I think the Kia packs all of the technology that you would want in basically any reasonable luxury car, and then maybe sacrifices a little bit on the performance front. This is not something that you're going to necessarily take to an autocross or a track day like you might do with the GTI. However, the reason that I would get the upgraded GT line or GT line turbo is because you get the multi-link rear suspension. That's not nothing. The base version of that K4 gets the torsion bar rear suspension, and I think that's a reasonable upgrade whether or not you need the engine. Look at the size of this gas door. Holy cow. Okay. Let's jump in and take it for a ride and see what it's like to operate this thing. Start stop button down here. A gripe I've got, when the fans come on, I'm getting a strong smell of sort of plasticky, melty plastic in the HVAC. It does dissipate very quickly, but it is present. And I've heard someone else get in this passenger seat and said, oh, that's a Hyundai thing or whatever. I don't know if that's fully true. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I don't remember smelling that on the Telluride, but I do get a sort of like new car chemical smell from the HVAC system. And I'm curious if that's something you have smelled in any of these cars. I'm still learning. You never know. Down here, cup holders that are kind of neat. You can push these out of the way. Great little packaging here. And if you want them to become cup holders again, boom, there they are. It has Apple CarPlay wireless and wired. I always prefer wired, so I'm plugged in here, and that illuminates on the screen right down here. Lovely stuff. That's all we need to see. Covered by my hand and the steering wheel, just like the Telluride, are the HVAC controls. But the HVAC controls are semi-redundant. Not everything, but some things. So if you're just trying to quickly turn off the fan, you can still do that from here. You can change your mode, you can change your dual zone temperatures, all the goods. Very nice to see, because if that was the only way to do it, it would probably annoy me, but it's not, and they have thought about you for that reason. Before we set off, I'll just give you a quick rundown. So like I told you, $32,870, which includes the $1,195 freight and handling. You know, these things start at like 22 grand, but then when you want to go up to the turbo, that's when you start getting into that 28 grand level. And this one has the optional equipment of the technology package that's giving you highway driving assist 2, parking, collision and avoidance, parking distance warning, forward, reverse, and side, surround view and blind spot view monitors, multicolor LED ambient lighting, which is really nice. They're green right now. It's actually kind of nice when you get in this in the dark. Memory driver seats, ventilated front seats, heated steering wheel, and a smart digital key. You know, nice stuff, honestly. I think it's a very well-rounded package to put it in drive. We have a proper shifter down in the center. I love that. That's very important to me. Now, straight off the line performance, relatively limited. So watch this. You're going to listen to my foot hit the floor. But once that turbo spools up, it's kind of a ripper, and it spins up a front wheel. No LSD here, so it's just putting torque to the wheel with the least traction and spinning that one. That's fine. You know, it doesn't have to be the most premium thing in the world, and I don't think it's a particular performance star in that way, but it does have plenty of juice once you get going. The first thing I noticed driving this car was the suspension. It's incredibly soft. It's luxurious even. This isn't something I really feel in the market anymore. Everyone goes so incredibly stiff to try to increase some level of performance. And, you know, it doesn't have like an alarming amount of body roll, though it does have some body roll. That's fine. I'm just impressed because it means that it actually absorbs things. I realized I haven't driven a legitimately soft car in a while because there were bumps I was going over, and in my brain I was thinking, ooh, I hope this doesn't compress too far and bottom out. And it doesn't. It has great control down when it's in compression. It just is really nice to get into a car that's focused on my comfort and luxury that way. Wonder where you're going. Okay, just a phantom blinker. Can't keep it between the mustard and the mayo. I would suggest handing that license back. Okay, another blinker for nothing. Interesting choices here. We do have a sport mode. There's only two modes, normal and sport. So these all seasons definitely don't have a ton of grip. They'll spin up, but that was just spinning up over the crest of that little hill, the little bit light in the front end. It's kind of impressive, though, how this turbo comes on. It feels a lot like an old school, like 80s turbo. Yeah, on occasion it can feel a little bit underdamped, like you'll undulate and bounce more than once, but it's supple. Out here on the highway, it's a pretty comfortable cruiser. There's some road noise, more road noise than I would prefer, but not much more than a Honda Civic. Something impressive about this cruise control system, though, is that A, you get this great camera, B, it'll change lanes for you, and it does it pretty well. The reason this is so impressive, it blinks a little too many times. It's slightly less assertive than I would want it to be. Come on. In you go. There you go. Finding its way. You may have already noticed, but when I flip my wipers on, it tells me exactly what setting I'm on within that little realm. And it tells me if I'm on the intermittent. It tells me which setting of the intermittent I'm on. I think that's really clever and premium. That's a nice, good user interface, good use of the screens. If you're gonna have screens, you should use them for clever things, and I think that's pretty darn clever. Ooh, we got a Hot Boy RAV4 flashing the Civic. Don't you love to see this? Oh my goodness, these people are so aggressive and wild. I mean, he is being a left lane hog, but it's like, it's pretty bonkers. System here. So I spent a few hours in it yesterday, driving down to the Cape and back for a 4th of July party, and I'm a little conflicted on these seats. On the one hand, I think that they're comfortable and cozy. I think the bottom of the seat could be a little more comfortable, but it never really bothered me. On the other hand, they're splitting the difference between supportive side bolsters and comfy, cozy GT seats, and I feel like I wish it would commit one way or the other, because I don't feel like it does anything either direction. I will say that I didn't like them the moment I sat in them, and then as I've driven the car more and more, I've adapted to them and I like them, but that's not great as like a point of sale situation. So if you do sit in this car, maybe spend a little time in it for a few minutes. See if these seats work for you. Steering, it's light, it's pretty accurate, it's direct. There's no play in it. It's just doing exactly what it needs to do to be relatively responsive and sporty. I've put 300 miles on this thing since I got it, and I've been averaging 32.5 miles per gallon, which isn't bad. I mean, it's not a 40 mile per gallon thing, but it is the price you pay when you're going to have kind of a juicy turbo top end that's going to boost up and give you actual power, because this thing does kind of rip once that thing is spooled. What I like about Kia in the modern era is that Kia has carved out their own niche. In the past, it felt like their business model was a little more copy-paste, trying to replicate what the Hondas and Toyotas of the world were doing and find success that way. And that was a great entry point. But then eventually you have to differentiate your game, and you have to have a brand identity all your own and a driving experience that is bespoke, that is specific to your brand. Otherwise, what are you doing? Maybe you're just providing the same thing for less. This car, I think, really embodies the essence of what Kia is going for. Heavy on the technology, giving you premium features that you otherwise cannot get for anywhere near this kind of money. And then, let's let this fella go by. Oh yes. Police interceptor wide open in that Pathfinder. Taking a deep breath because he thought he was coming for him for a second. But what this does is Kia has figured out that if they focus on giving enough power, but not going so crazy that they're going to be a performance car. That's for the Hyundai N line. You know, you can do that with Elantra N. But its purpose is not to go out to an autocross and set lap times. Its purpose is to be comfortable. So that's why they tune in this really lovely, soft suspension that takes bumps well, that feels a little more like a luxury car than a performance car. And that, I think, is the identity that sets it apart from everybody else. The Kia and Hyundai brands have also really learned where they can cost cut and where they can't. When it comes to touch surfaces, things you're going to interact with as a driver regularly, they do not cut those costs. They make sure that those surfaces are nice and soft and sometimes leather or, fake leather. They make sure that buttons feel good. They make sure that when you hit a blinker stock or flip your headlights on, they make sure that that feels good. And those contribute to a much more premium feeling thing than maybe the car even is, which is kind of great. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten into some like Chevy pickups and I operate the blinker stock and I'm like, come on, dude, like you can do better than this. Overall, I think this is a great package, but I think you have to understand what the package you're getting means, because this K4 hatchback is not a GTI replacement. I don't think someone shopping for a GTI or even a Civic Si, I know that's not a hatchback, but in the realm, I don't think this is going to scratch that itch. And it's not to say that it doesn't have performance chops. It's pretty quick, but the nature of the performance is not necessarily what you would feel from the GTI or the Civic Si. So in the Civic Si or a GTI, you're going to get some like limited slip differential that's going to put power to the outside wheel around a corner. This is going to spin up that inside wheel for sure. You're going to get the power. It's going to give you that straight line agility, but the suspension is definitely tuned for comfort. And I think that is valuable. We need variety in the market. And I love that I can take this car and not have to just put it head to head with something like that. It doesn't need to be a GTI competitor. It needs to be an alternative for somebody who's looking for more of the technology and luxury features than necessarily the lap times. And that, I think, is the nicest thing about this vehicle, is that you get in, you feel kind of special, you're a little bit wowed by some of the ambient lighting choices. You've got power moonroof visor screen, whatever you want to call it. I think these are features that you usually only find in much more expensive vehicles. And I find this to be, all right, maybe we wanted 2 buttons for that because I find myself screwing with that too much. I think these are features that are pretty impressive in a car that costs only this much. And the fact that you can do away with some of those features to get it even lower and get into this thing for like the low 20s is something. And last but not least, I think the screens and the user interface and the graphics and the fonts are nice. This isn't something I can say about everybody in the field, especially some of the big OEMs. Sometimes you get in and you're like, oh, they have not yet finished this. That's bananas. And this, it feels special. It feels correct. It feels like something I actually want to be in. That's it. That's the K4 hatchback. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.